Okay, welcome to the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival Filmmaker Conversations. I'm Gabby Kennedy, host of the Actors Talk with Gabby Kennedy. And co hosting these conversations with me is Nina Strike, our wonderful founder and festival director of the Global Peace Film Festival. Now, this year's festival runs from September 16th through the 21st in Winter Park in Orlando. And the festival's Free for All Shorts program runs from September 22nd through the 28th. For more information about our film festival, go to peacefilmfest.org. Now I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing Miss Penny Arcade and Miss Chih Hsuan Liang. Hi ladies, how you doing today?
Great.
Well,
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Nina, how are you today?
I'm good as well. So, and it's delightful to have you with us. And first of all, can you tell us about the Man from Pretentia?
Penny, I think. All right, I'll give you the succinct intro. So, The Man from Pretentia is a documentary directed by Chi that is about Paul Bridgewater, who was one of the original and more important gallerists who emerged in the 1980s at the high point of what was called the East Village art explosion, which was an art explosion that kind of challenged the uptown art market. And people would know about that because of Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kenny Scharf. People like that are the better known artists from that period. And Paul was an interesting character because for decades people thought that he was from some very posh, very rich background. He really carried himself like an aristocrat. He had an accent like an aristocrat. I, as a young woman, was very intimidated by him. You know, he was so sophisticated and seemed so wealthy and seemed to come from such wealth. Well, lo and behold, what we found out, and literally I found out from interviewing him for my Lower East Side biography project. My longtime collaborator Steve Zettner and I started a video project in 1999 for public access television. We were recruited by public television activist Rick Youngers, who was trying to bring artists into the public access world to kind of elevate the content. And so I decided to interview people who, at that time, oral history was academically oriented around just famous people. So you would interview an Allen Ginsberg or an Andy Warhol or a William Burroughs or some figure like that, and that would count. But the other people who had been in the same milieu did not count. So Steve and I set out to really document downtown New York, the Lower East Side, and I've been down here since 1967, and I knew all these amazing people. And one of the people that we interviewed was Paul Bridgewater. And the subtitle of the Lower East Side Biography Project is Stemming the Tide of Cultural Amnesia, because as we find, I was the person who coined the term cultural amnesia in like 1992 or 1993. It's now been attributed to other people, but you know, that's how the cookie crumbles. But in 1999, it was very obvious that we were losing this history. And now it's just completely fragmented and gone because people don't even have the attention span. And as I was telling Gabby earlier, the idea was to interject an intergenerational voice into a world that was no longer intergenerational. And the art world has always been intergenerational, because intergenerationalism is the engine of evolution. It's that way in the art world, it's that way in the real world, you know. And so I had interviewed Paul and started to find out this backstory, that he was actually grew up in the California desert in some, like, I don't know, one car town, from a very poor family. And he had reinvented himself, which is where the title of Chih's film comes from, The Man from Pretentia. Basically, the man who pretended himself into a position. And I think that title comes from one of Paul's friends, who, like, somebody said, "Where's Paul from?" And they said, "He's from Pretentia," you know. So, at any rate, we had met Chih. She came to one of my live performances, and then we found out that she was a video editor. So, because our project is a labor of love, whenever we meet a video editor that we like, we asked Chih if she wanted to take on one of our people, because we give filmmakers, we give them access to our source material, because the project really started out as a way to collect the source material, because these people were disappearing. And we give them a director credit and a editing credit, whoever they are, anybody who does one of our people. And she chose to do Paul, and now she will tell you how she went and met Paul.
Please, go on.
Well, so I joined Penny, and Paul had a gallery at the Lower East Side at the time, and I decided to visit before I work on that project. And I walked in wearing jeans and sneakers, and very uncommonly, he welcomed me. I walked in, and then he stood up and said, "Oh, hi, hello. Do you know the show?" And I said, "No." And then he said, "Do you know the artist?" And I said, "No." And then he asked, "Do you want a tour?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he spent 30 minutes to tell me about the whole show, which I was thrilled, because I had other experiences walking into a gallery and nobody said a word and I did not understand. And by the end of the tour, I go, "Okay, well, I think I'm going to make a documentary about you." I think the decision came from not only he was a very interesting subject, but I really want to know about New York's art world. And that gave me a chance to explore as a foreigner and outsider, to learn about the East Village, Lower East Side culture and the art world there.
And how did and the story is absolutely fascinating. Paul Bridgewater is just a unique character. So how did your collaboration with
You're breaking up. I don't know if that's going to show up in the recording.
Oh, is this better? Okay. How did the collaboration between you two, between she and Penny, work?
Well, you know, I'm the elder stateswoman of the downtown art scene. I consider myself an assistant at large. You know, it's part of my social practice to be an artist advocate, to promote other artists. I'm a fixer. You know, I have a lot of abilities. So in my community, people come to me for help. and that's one of my roles. And it's part of my artwork to have that social relationship. And I grew up in this scene from when I was 17 years old. So, I think I have a pretty good handle of what it is to be. I'm from an immigrant family. I'm from a working class family. People who are not usually conversant with art or with high culture. So it's very important to me to make that available to everybody. That's kind of a thing that I champion, that everyone deserves that access. And so she and I and Steve, because Steve Zettner, my longtime collaborator, we immediately liked Chih, and Chih, of course, is coming from
Taiwan.
not Taiwan, yeah. So she has more of that culture of respecting older people, more of a more lineage oriented and legacy oriented. So we were all a good fit, and we loved it. And she was very what's that word I'm looking for? She was very proactive. She went and she did the work. She didn't have to have her hand held, and we'd been doing a lot of hand holding because a lot of the people that we ended up working with, the young filmmakers, were really young filmmakers, and they were people at NYU and whatever other schools they were at, where they really weren't getting any mentorship. And in a sense, she was already highly achieved as a film editor. She didn't need to be taught how to edit or color correct, which is what we're doing with a lot of people. So, we just kind of watched her do it. And when she had issues, she'd come to us, and it was a very smooth, wonderful.
I've never told Penny about this, but the first thing that our collaboration is that because I didn't know where to look, what I'm filming, like, what is this? So I attended several Penny shows, and then she writes, I read them, and all those things point some kind of direction. And that's one thing. And another thing is that when you film, you really need the access, and people need to trust you to be open to the camera. And I didn't know anybody there, and people didn't know me. But every time when I said I was with Penny, people open the door and then say, okay, now I get it. Yeah. So that was crucial to the whole process.
And you do have such wonderful, unique, the character, the Paul is such an amazing character, but everybody in the film is also, Penny, I see you're talking and you're muted. Penny's muted. There we go.
We lost what you were saying.
Oh, okay. Gabby, can you hear? Are you getting breaking up? You're muted too.
Yeah. Nina, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Gabby, were we breaking up during that?
No, it went out just a little bit, but once everyone is muted, then we can hear you nice and clearly. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So you do have such a, you're fly on the wall in so many of the scenes in the film as just so touching, and you capture such personalities and such nuance in the film. When you first walked in, that first time when you walked into the gallery and he gave you the half-hour tour and you left thinking, I'm going to make a documentary, did you think it was going to be a feature-length documentary, or did you How did you develop the whole story to what it came out to?
The goal was to do a feature-length documentary, but I actually didn't know what I was doing. I said I want to do a feature-length documentary, and then I found a cinematographer who collaborated with me, and we started filming, not knowing what we were doing. So we filmed a lot. We were there to capture whatever we thought that was interesting, and almost everything was interesting because everything was new to us as a team. And we had a lot of fun being there, seeing how Paul interact with everybody in the neighborhood and to know the community. So that's how everything happened. We filmed a lot. There was no roadmap. There was no synopsis. Okay, this is the film I want to make. We didn't know what we were doing. You mean?
How long did you film for? How long from the time you walked into the gallery that first time until you finished filming? You probably had to go back for some
I believe the first shoot was December 2012, and the last shoot was September 2021. And yeah, and that was actually two weeks before Paul's passing.
Wow. So what surprised you along the way?
Surprised me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I use the word surprise, but I enjoyed the whole process so much and learned in every way by making this documentary. By, the process itself just enriched my life so in a big way. Knowing Penny, meeting people in the community, knowing Paul, and through Paul to meet other people. Everything was a surprise. I did not know what would happen. And yeah.
That's why, because the film looks like it's kind of an adventure in a way. So that's why I said that.
Yes, it was an adventure, and it was really, really fun.
And also, very few people you'll meet are like Paul Bridgewater. He is an extraordinary character.
Unique, but I would say, I spent a lot of time there while filming. A lot of people in the East Village and Lower East Side, especially in Penny's generation, many of them are unique in their own way. And that was very inspiring to see, to get to know them and meet them in person. It was a very special experience.
So before I turn it over to Gabby for a question from Gabby, do you want to say something? Do you want to say something in Taiwanese?
Nina, first of all, thank you for introducing me to the Taiwanese Association in Orlando. In Chinese, in Mandarin, 这是我第一部纪录片。谢谢大家的支持，希望大家可以来现场参与，然后我会到现场跟大家一起互动。
Mandarin, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And Gabby, do you have a question for Chih and Penny? You're muted.
We're going to get this mutant thing right. My question is for Penny. Penny, I know that as long as you mentioned you've lived in New York, I know that you know about the rich culture in the art community. Through the lens sort of Chih's eyes, what surprised you about this film, or what's a sort of a behind the scenes moment that surprised you about this film?
Well, the thing is, I've been chomping at the bit to say this, is that she originally went there to make a 28-minute film for the video project, because we broadcast and stream weekly 28-minute programs. So of course I was surprised when she decided to go further, because no one has ever gone further with any of our people. So that was surprising, but I think that it would have been very interesting. The really interesting film would have been to make a film about Chih and Paul, because at the time when Chih started this film, she spoke very little English. She was coming from a completely different culture. I mean, she had absolutely no concept of anything that she was entering into. She didn't know the Lower East Side. She didn't know the downtown art scene. She's from a different generation. She's from a different culture. So the surprising thing to me was how she immediately became involved in Paul's life. I mean, it wasn't just she was making a film, but she became deeply entwined in Paul's life. And this was not like the smoothest relationship. Not to say that it was problematic, but Paul was very expansive. He was also teetering on the point of bankruptcy, all things that were kind of hidden from most people. But she, because she was so involved, she was dealing with somebody whose largesse of life cost him, and his what's that word that starts, his altruism. You know, I think she was quite taken up with Paul's altruism that bordered on grandiosity. You know, so that was a funny tightrope to walk. And we were telling Gabby earlier that although Paul had spent most of his career dealing with the rich and famous, his attitude in his gallery, which is set on the Lower East Side, and which is a neighborhood that's still a ghetto. I mean, all the trendy people are here, all the restaurants, all the bars, but it's still a long-term Black Latino neighborhood. And they couldn't get rid of everybody. You know, so lots of poor people are still here who don't have access to culture. And Paul treated every person who came into that gallery like they were an important member of the art world. And that goes for young children, teenagers, old people, people coming in to get out of the rain. It didn't matter. Every single person would be treated as if they might be a millionaire, and also were given an orientation to the art. And I think that this was a kind of a seesaw that she was on, and I think it kept her engaged, because he had the grandiosity on one side and then this incredible humanity on the other side. And then on top of all of that, if that wasn't enough, he also became very physically ill and had been HIV positive for many, many years, and now was experiencing other illnesses, including lung cancer. And I think that Paul really saw Chih as a daughter figure, and she certainly treated him with the respect of a family member, and was a caretaker for him. And I don't think it was that easy, because he was a very difficult, irascible, independent person. As far as the uniqueness of the downtown art scene, yes, it's true that one of the things that comes across very much in the film is this idea that you don't need role models. You know, younger people are always crying out, especially minorities, LGBT people. They're always whining, oh, I don't see any role models. I don't have any role models. But the people from the 60s became their own role models. And I think that's a powerful message in the show, which is about becoming, and it's about seizing your own destiny, and that you have the right to aspire to whatever lengths you want to. And I think that's a very powerful part of the film. And because Chih was filming everything, you see every trial that Paul is going through, and you see his bravado, but you also see his humanity. And I don't think we see that. That's not something you're going to see on reality television.
Yeah.
You know, and yet we as human beings are hungry for those stories.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for telling us about that. And Chih, thank you for making this film. You have to admit that this is something that's very special. You're meeting someone, you know, towards the end of his life, and you being a part of his legacy. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us here today to have this story about the man from Potentia.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we go, I just want to quickly find out where we can connect with you. Where can viewers find out more information?
We have a Facebook page.
Okay.
So if you know,
And what is
Men
that?
from Pretentia, I don't think there's another film that's named Men from
From
Pretentia.
Pretentia. Okay. All right. So check out their Facebook page to find out more about this incredible story. And again, the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival runs from September 16th through the 21st. Ladies, will you be in attendance this
I'll
year?
be there.
There. Okay, wonderful. Well, I can't wait to meet you, Chih. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us here today. Nina, it's always a pleasure. Okay, so we'll see you at the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, bye, Chih. Bye, Penny. See you, Nina.
Bye,
Bye.
Tina.